Hi, welcome back. So in the last video, we are talking about some of the boundary conditions. We just ran through a dry test run kind of for turbulent flow. Now, of course, we found out that the simulation kind of blew up with a huge Courant number suddenly coming out of nowhere. So probably first place we want to look at is whether we have the right boundary conditions. So let's go through the boundary conditions for our K values in this K epsilon model. So again, these are the standard boundary conditions we have. You have some dimensions, which of course these are in kinetic energy units. That's why you have a 2 and minus 2. 2 for meters, minus 2 for the time, which is in seconds. So it's meter square per second square. So it's kinetic energy, turbulent KE, kinetic energy. So your internal field is your initial conditions. So this is your initial boundary condition for K. It's a uniform value of this much. And this is your boundary field. Okay, so the top patch, which is, I think, the outlet, should be a zero gradient. Okay, so let's take a look, see which one is the inlet and outlet. I can't forget. Okay, so bottom, the bottom is the inlet, the top is the outlet. Alright, so let's go and see K. So yep, boundary field, top patch will be 0. Now this wall has a very special thing called the KQR wall function, and then it has a value right here. Now what is this wall function and what is this value talking about? Alright, and of course the bottom patch, we also have to answer the question of what do we assign for this bottom patch. So the bottom patch, the bottom patch is something if you have watched some of the videos on turbulence, you should have already gotten a glimpse of what this value should be. It is based on a, let me bring out that document. Okay. So this is all the derivations we've gone through already. You should have watched the videos, if not, at least have some kind of a background. Alright, so these should be our K and epsilon values. So we have all these, and we talked about turbulent intensity before. Alright, and this should be around 5% for pipe flow. And these are the inlet boundary conditions. So we kind of have, there are two ways we can go about it. We can either use Excel to compute this K value, and of course compute the epsilon value on the other for the epsilon boundary conditions, or there are certain functions in OpenFOAM that kind of tell you, hey, we can just specify a turbulent intensity and let OpenFOAM calculate the rest. Okay, so so this should not be a zero gradient. Perhaps that's why the thing blew up. So yeah, it's kind of underspecified. So these are, I think, Newman boundary conditions. They call this zero gradient Newman boundary conditions, I think, if I remember correctly. Okay, foam tutorials. Let's go and see how the boundary conditions are specified in a proper tutorial file. So I'm going to go to incompressible and I'm going to go to pisoFoam. So I'll do that, pisoFoam. Let's see what we have. Okay, so in the pisoFoam folder, there's just a cavity and a coupled EU kind of thing, so it's not really what we want. Maybe we can go and look in simple foam. So I'm going to clear this. Simple foam. And let's see what's inside. Let's see. There's a turbulent flat plate, which is basically our boundary layer, standard boundary layer kind of a thing. Maybe we can start with that first. Turbulent flat plate. Okay, so we're under the turbulent flat plate. So we can go and start looking at the 0.k epsilon, because looks like we don't have the 0.original that we are kind of used to. We have 0.k epsilon and 0.k omega SST. So these are two turbulence models. So we'll go and look at the k epsilon one. And let's see how they write their boundary conditions. Alright. So look at the inlet. They say it's a type which is called fixed value. And then, well, the value will be the internal field. What's this dollar internal field? Well, whenever you see this dollar internal field, you have to look earlier and see whether internal field has been defined for you. So in this case, we have an internal field of a uniform 1.08 times 10 to the minus 3 in whatever units they are doing. So the value will be uniform 1.08 times 10 to the minus 3, and they'll copy and paste it here when it's being read out in this OpenFOAM code or C++. Okay, but the thing I want to bring out here is this thing called turbulent intensity kinetic energy inlet, and the intensity is 0.05, which is what we kind of want. So this is the way to get OpenFOAM to auto calculate for you what this turbulent intensity is. So let's go ahead and do that. So you don't have to go to Excel or calculator and then go and plug in all those values. You just let OpenFOAM do it for you. But always it is good to kind of find out what this find out some background knowledge as to what you're actually putting in. So I'm going to put turbulent intensity kinetic energy inlet. Of course, if you don't want to typo anything, just copy and paste everything over. That's the easiest way to get things done without okay, I'll type it here, I'll press delete, and I'll just oops. Okay, just press insert 2, 3, 4, and I'll just paste it here. Now remove the command lines. Again, I'll remove these two commands, and that should be it. That's the correct one. Okay, so this is how we specify our bottom patch. Okay, so for now we will quit, and then we will see what is this what is this value. All right, this is just an initial value, initial guess value, of course. But ideally, we will want to calculate a value that's that reflects this 5% of turbulent kinetic energy. Okay, so let's take a look at what this KQR wall function is before we go and edit our. Oops. Yeah, before we go and edit our epsilon file. Okay, so what is this? KQR wall function. Okay, so there is a very useful resource online. It's from TFD Chalmers. It's called a thorough description of how wall functions are implemented in OpenFOAM. Again, I'll try and put this in the description, so please remind me if I forget. But yeah. So this is OpenFOAM version 4.0. This is the other branch of OpenFOAM, but you don't really have to worry about it. It should not differ too much from the other version of OpenFOAM. And there's lots of background theory into what wall functions are. We can go more into detail next time, in perhaps another video on turbulence modeling. Perhaps the 8th video. You'll see how things go. Yeah. So. Yeah, in OpenFOAM we have all these wall functions, and the basic idea is that not all of the this is a good diagram to look at. Not all of the fluid inside, let's say, a pipe can be modeled using the turbulent regime. So the Reynolds average Navier-Stokes, that doesn't apply for the whole body of fluid, because inside the main bulk of the fluid, yes, it is turbulent, but close to the wall, you're gonna have a no-slip condition, right? So at the wall, the velocity in the x, y, and z direction is definitely 0 without any form of variation. There's no fluctuation in that sense. And then you have to wonder, close to the wall, is there a layer that it's not very turbulent in that sense? Is there a layer where the viscous forces are strong enough to suppress that turbulence? And the answer is, yeah, I mean, based on the research done by Prento, I mean, lots of other people have looked into this, and they say that, yeah, there is something called a viscous sublayer in this turbulent flow regime. So it's very close to the wall. You'll find that, you know, there's kind of a lack of turbulence. And how do you find the velocity variation in this viscous sublayer? Well, basically, they have to do some experiments, and they use kind of a non-dimensional correlation to kind of get this wall function going. So what is this wall function? This wall function just describes the velocity variation in this viscous sublayer. So wall function, it just describes velocity variation in viscous sublayer. Of course, if your Reynolds number is gigantic, and I'm not going to define what gigantic is yet, or I'm just not going to do it in this video, but if your Reynolds number is gigantic, this viscous sublayer is so small you can almost neglect it, so that the whole thing is just dominated by this turbulent regime. But if your Reynolds number is just slightly above the transition, that you just cleared the transition state, it's just starting to get turbulent, you might have this viscous sublayer that's important, especially for shear stresses, heat transfer, all that kind of stuff. That we'll need to take note of. And this is very important in heat transfer because this kind of acts as a layer of thermal resistance. So we'll need to take account for that. But at least for now, we are not doing heat transfer yet. We're just doing the momentum stuff. And then what OpenFOAM does to take into account all these, they have this thing called epsilon wall functions and KQR wall functions. Okay. So again, KQR wall functions. It says that in this document, it says that it inherits from the zero gradient FV patch field. So basically, it's a Newman boundary condition or zero gradient boundary condition. So basically, it's pretty much the same as zero gradient. Okay. And why do we have that? Well, this is assuming this Reynolds number is gigantic. So if you have a gigantic Reynolds number, then this turbulent, there'll be so much energy in this turbulent flow that the viscous effects or the viscous sublayer is very thin. All right. So if there's more turbulence, the viscous sublayer is thinner. There's less thermal resistance, or there's less of this, viscous effects. All right. Because the viscosity is the same, the friction forces are the same, but you increase the Reynolds number, then the inertial forces will increase a lot. That's why you have this thinning effect, and you can just neglect that. Well, in a lower Reynolds number kind of a situation, you use this thing called the K low Reynolds number wall function, and that will take into account all these experimental data that I was talking about, like having this YPL calculated, perhaps for the first mesh cell that you're talking about, and then it will return some kind of a. Don't worry about the C++ code, but basically it returns some of the wall functions I was talking about, rather than just give it a zero gradient where these wall functions are completely neglected. Okay, so let's take a look back at the code and see what's being used here. So what's being used here is the KQR wall function, and you specify a value here, right? You specify a value here, and it says uniform 0.0375, right? And then you're like, hey, wait a minute, right? Zero gradient doesn't even need a value to begin with. So what is this uniform 0.00375 talking about? Well, from after some searching online, you see these people, they have done lots of the prior work. Well, basically, if you look in the online forums, it says that it says that this guy Gerard, he posted something like many years ago, and he said that the value specified with the wall function is kind of an initial guess. So I'm going to put all these, oh, not this one, this is a Businesque. I'm going to put all these links into the file below, in description section. And of course, you can look into the source code for KQRWall function on GitHub. And then this will show you what it's really going on behind, if you can understand C++, or you can try and guess what this is about. And you'll find very quickly, if you search the word 0, you'll find that the 0 gradient appears many times. So it is true that, this KQRWall function is pretty much a 0 gradient kind of a boundary condition. So I'll just leave all this inside the description below. Okay. So now we kind of get a flavor of what this KQRWall function is talking about and what this value here is talking about. All right. So perhaps I'm going to save this first. All right. I'm going to save this and quit. And I want to, take a look at epsilon. Okay. So again, we have the same ideas here. We need to change the bottom patch, the top patch, and the wall. So top patch is just the exit, which you can leave as 0 gradient. But since we are starting to run out of time, I don't want to drag this video too long. We want to we want to talk about this epsilon values in the next video, and of course calculate the initial field, at least, for this uniform value using the correlations we have just discussed for the internal the inlet turbulent kinetic energy, and of course the epsilon value. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.